So you want to get into startups, but you don't know how. Maybe you watch the show Silicon Valley, or maybe your friend is doing software, or maybe you're just on Twitter and you're like, yo, all of these people are doing startups. Um, and yeah, it's pretty big right now, especially I just visited San Francisco and it's insane because everybody I'm around has some sort of startup that they're doing. It's actually insane. And part of that is like it's a really neat market to actually get into right now. So I see why you're interested. Apart side from that, it's also confusing than ever before to actually get into startups. Also, side note, I'm going to be focusing mainly on SaaS, which is software as a service. Essentially, startups that are based on just software, not hardware, not space companies, not blah blah blah. Like just straight up software. Just because I feel like software is the easiest to get into, and it's the most booming right now for sure. So it's more confusing than ever, and I say this because if you Google how do I start my own startup, you're gonna find like a million different articles that say like a bunch of different things, and you'll have like analysis paralysis. Like you don't want that. And this video is kind of here to like structure everything through and like the different routes you can take and what those different routes mean. So we'll hop right in. So I'm gonna start off by saying like why SaaS. So I said it's confusing more than ever before, but it's also easier to do than ever before. And I say that because I can ship an app right now, like within 12 hours. I can cook something up using V0, whether that's just using Cursor, whether that's ChatGPT. I can literally code an entire application and just straight up just ship it and hook it up to Vercel, have a domain ready, and have CI/CD. So now any changes I make, I just push to Git, and those changes are present, right? So it's easier than ever before. And there's also multiple routes you can go. And I'm gonna dive into these routes a little bit later in the video. By the way, if I keep looking down on my lap, it's because I'm looking at my iPad. I do have a couple of notes to stay on topic. The thing with software compared to like maybe e-commerce or like even Amazon FBA, TikTok Shop, it has potentials to make billions, not just millions, but billions really, really fast. Even if you look at like Apple and Microsoft, these are trillion-dollar companies. They've been billion-dollar companies forever, right? So it has potential to literally do billions, not just millions. So it's a good place to be in. And AI is taking over relevancy, right? This is very relevant. Like you're looking at ChatGPT, these like 100 million AI tools coming into the space, and then like there's a lot of resources to actually learn this stuff, right? Scrimba, that's one of my most, that's my most favored learning platform, which is JavaScript, and it'll teach you front end development, and it's absolutely insane the in depth they go to. This video is not sponsored, by the way, but there's like free code camp. There's like Coursera courses, Udemy courses, LinkedIn Learning, YouTube, like a bunch of free stuff, a bunch of paid stuff. If you really love tech and if you really want to make money, this is the place to be, is SaaS. First route is the traditional route. Like this is all Silicon Valley. Like think about the TV show, think about Apple, Steve Jobs, Microsoft, even OpenAI. Like think about all of these like big ass companies. Like that's the traditional route, right? The goal here is to get a team together and start a full out company. And I'm going to talk about the different type of goals here for a traditional startup. So goal number one for a traditional startup is to raise funds. Going to VCs, asking them to invest money, saying this is the next big thing. VC says, get the hell out of my office. Then you go to the next VC. And it's like a rinse and repeat type of thing while you're working on your product. So this is all about pitching. This is all about raising as much money as possible. Maybe you apply to Y Combinator. Maybe you go to Founders Inc. Maybe you're going to, Techstars. Maybe a whole different thing as a whole, right? So this is going to venture capitalists or angel investors or really anybody and just raising funds. That's the first goal. The second goal of a traditional startup is to grow. Now the purpose of a traditional startup, right, is like to grow the brand, grow the product, grow the company, build out everything, right? So it's like going from like a team of like maybe like 3 people and like an app that barely works to like an app that has a very complex backend. Like it's has like, maybe you have like 7 different teams now. Like the goal is to reach the height of like what like Google is, what Facebook is, what Netflix is, what Toyota is, what Nissan is, like different industries, whatever, right? Like the goal is to like just reach a point of like that. Like I want to make this $1 billion company. I want to make this go all the way to the moon, whether it gets bought out or not. My goal right now, starting off, right, you don't even want to think about getting bought out. You want to think about just, riding this all the way to the moon, as much money as you can make. This is your product. You're going to stick in this for as long as possible. You're going to grow it as long as you're possible. It's your baby that you're raising. The third goal of a traditional startup is becoming that market leader, right? So now you're going to be at a point of like, okay, it's gaining traction. How do I be number one? Yeah, so the whole point of this is like, I want to be number one. I want to be the best company that does this. I want to be it. I want to dominate this. So now you might be thinking is like, wow, those goals are crazy. I can be literally a billionaire. What's like a good success guide in order to make sure that I'm successful? So I'll break that down right now. So number one, the person starting the company has to be an engineer. And I know when I say this, like, and you might be thinking like, oh, but I'm a marketing guy. I can just hire somebody who's an engineer. Like, I'm not the one who's saying this. This is Kasar Yunus that said this. He's the CEO of Applied Tuition. But like, I also agree. I guess so. I am saying this, but I've never seen a traditional startup actually succeed, like, unless it was ran by an engineer. So like, it has to be engineer led. Like, you can try as like somebody who, like, I don't want to like crush anybody's dream. Like, if you want to try hiring somebody and like leading the team, like maybe, or have a low percentage engineer partner, you can definitely try that. But like, from my experience, there's no point. Like, it has to be engineer led. If you're a marketing guy, or if you're like somebody who's not in the business field, or you're somebody who's just not an engineer, if you want to get into a traditional startup, I'd say just take the low percentage cut, because the engineer can lead a startup way better than you probably can. And this isn't a diss or anything. It's just, I mean, it's just a straight fact. I've like literally, I've seen business people or people that are outside of the engineering realm lead startups, and like, I've literally never seen it work. So I mean, take that as you want. The second thing in the success guide is you need a team. Even in the beginning, like, it can't just be you. Like, yeah, I know it sounds great and all. I'm going to have 100% equity. Maybe I'll give something up for, investors. But realistically, a team will always work better than just a single person. Think about it, right? You have 5 brains versus 1 brain. And also, in order to actually scale that product up and move faster, you need a team. And it's better if like majority of that team is all engineers. It doesn't have to be, right? But it's like if you're thinking about a team of like 5 people, have like maybe 3 engineers, 2 marketing people, or like 2 people that talk to VCs all day, right? Whatever a combination might be, have a team that's money hungry for the vision, and wants to see this company succeed. So the third thing on the success guide is the focus should not be just on the product, but it should be on the company and the brand itself. A good example of this would be like, you don't want a company that's like, we hate donating, for example. Like, we hate giving to charity. I know it's a stupid example, but just hear me out, right? You're a company, you made it clear, maybe your company Twitter has tweeted something, I hate donating to charity. Like, now that image, like, the product doesn't even matter, because like, investors aren't going to invest if they see that. And like, let's say you guys gain traction after the product is like fully working and it's like really dope. Now that the company image is ruined, it's like, it's so hard to actually like make anything of it. It's just not worth the trouble. So focus on having a clean brand name. Focus on having focus on just building out the brand and the company and the product, right? It shouldn't just be the product. It should be all of those things. And then 4 is AI. AI is booming. So that's like a one cheat code. If you're going to incorporate AI somehow into a traditional startup, or come up with an AI related, idea, let's go into the moon. So you might be asking, Sanan, this sounds great and all, so there's seriously no cons? No, of course there's cons, right? Like, everything has cons. So one of the biggest cons is it might take a while to see actual money in your pocket. Like, let's say you start off with like this idea of like automating stickers with AI, right? So your AI sticker company is now valued at $6 million, but the 6 million you're not actually keeping into your pocket, right? That's the company's money. So like, actually seeing that like millions of dollars into your pocket, I mean, that's gonna take a while. This is when like the product itself is like selling really well. You paid back any investors, paid back any loans, and it might not take a while. To be honest, like, I've seen like traditional startups like this like absolutely blow up in like, a month, and they're like making millions right from the get-go. But like, it's highly unlikely, especially if this is like your first one, and like, you're pouring everything into it, but it's like it's not moving right away. But it will move later. It's just a waiting game. So like that waiting game is one of the cons, right? It might take actually a pretty long time for you to, reach that Bill Gates status. The second con is failing slow. And I guess I don't really know how to word this, but like a good example of this is like your AI sticker company. You're grinding this out for 5 years. Like you're still only taking home maybe 100K a year, and it just fails. Maybe nobody's buying your product now, maybe a competitor came in and just sweep the market, but like ultimately your startup just failed, and now you wasted 5 years. Now you're probably thinking, all this is bullshit, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm just going to work a 9 to 5 job. And 90% of the people that actually fail after the first time, that's truly what they think, because they wasted so much time and they failed. you know they thought they would succeed in the first 5 years, and now they've just failed, and they just wasted 5 years of their entire life. Maybe they could have worked on a different startup, but this is just the reality, right? And also, I will say 90% of the people, they fail the first time, but 90% of, like, 10% of those people that go and start up a startup again after that, 90% of that 10% actually succeed. So it becomes a mental game then, right? And it also depends on the personality. Do you want to really fail that slow, or do you want to fail fast, right? Kind of picture yourself in that scenario and think about like what you would do, how you would react if you just wasted so much time, and would you be able to pick yourself back up after that? The third, and arguably actually the most biggest con, is the disputing with team members. You're starting off with like a team, and now your co-founder, wants 100% of the company. What are you doing now? So I was in San Francisco last month, and these guys have a company that was a part of Y Combinator, and essentially one of the co-founders is like completely lacking, right? He doesn't want to do anything. He's just sitting there. So the other co-founder wants to kick him out. Problem is they're both even 50%. So now they have to go through all these lawsuits, these law troubles. They're not actually even allowed to work on their product until this is all settled. So like this can be a major setback and a major con. And to be honest, it's so hard actually finding those good team members, right? Like one thing is, don't pick your friend. Piece of advice, I learned that the hard way, right? You pick your friend, now you and your friends are butting heads left and right? It's better to actually pick an enemy, I'll be honest, because an enemy has something to prove to you. Pick someone that you can trust, but then that's also different than you. You don't want to pick somebody that's like exactly the same way as you. And this can vary, because like it's hard for me to actually talk on this because I don't know your personality, right? Like, for example, if you're a very quiet person, a better team member to have would be like a very talkative person. Like, go for someone who's opposite, but also somebody that like you can see the vision together with. You don't want somebody who's complete opposite to the point where like you work very hard, they don't work at all, right? Like there has to be some commonalities about the vision. And those are the cons with the traditional startup. And I know that's a lot of information to pack in, especially because I also talk very, very fast. But just let all of this just sink in, I would say. Like, sleep over it, think about it. Maybe even pause the video and just reflect about what a traditional startup is and what that looks like for you. The second route in all this is MicroSaaS, and this is the route that's been gaining the most popularity. What is a MicroSaaS? It's essentially a very small and simple software, right? When you're thinking of MicroSaaS, you're thinking of RizGPT, Indian wedding generator, Cal AI, stupid stuff along with, relevant stuff, but they're very, very simple applications. For example, RizGPT, and you might have even heard of it. This is just an AI chatbot that all it does is teaches you how to rizz up girls, right? Or Indian wedding generator. All this application does is it takes your inputs about like the type of wedding you want, colors, decors, and it essentially prints out an Indian wedding for you, or how your Indian wedding will look like. And these are becoming extremely popular. The purpose of all these apps, right, like RizGPT or like Cal AI, is that they're very simple and that they're very easy to use. And the reason why I think it's gaining a lot of popularity is because you can do it completely alone. Like, you don't need a team. You can do it complete solo. You could get a team if you want to. That's no problem, right? But the beauty of it is you can solo mission it. It can be literally just you that does it, and you'll still print. So the number one goal for a MicroSaaS is distribution. So distribution is so important for a MicroSaaS because it all relies on distribution. And the number one way to actually market your MicroSaaS is to get a bunch of UGC creators, right? These are basically like TikTokers that will essentially be like, hey, by the way, check out this app, blah blah blah. This app can do this. Use promo code, and they'll give their own custom code so that they get commission on their sale, and you might even have to give them a retainer. So like the upfront cost is a little high, but I'd say I would say for any app, keep above like $1,000 that you'll just spend on distribution, because your app like literally depends on distribution for it to actually live. Once you have distribution, right, you can spread to different channels. You go from UGC, now you're running ads on your product, and now from there you decide you want to sell your product, right? Like distribution is like pretty key to when it comes to a MicroSaaS. It's about getting as many eyes as possible on the software, because again, you're not actually pitching to investors. Your audience is usually the viewer that's watching these TikTok videos. And again, like one thing to note for MicroSaaS is these are also usually B2C, which is business to consumer. It doesn't have to be, but it could be B2B, but it's like 90% of the time it's B2C, because again, your key viewers are these people that are in these distribution channels that you're using, especially TikTok. The second goal of a MicroSaaS is to ship fast, fail fast, right? You want to ship a product out maybe in 2 days, distribute it for 4 days straight, and if it doesn't go anywhere and you put your all in, shut it down, start another one. That's also the beauty of it as well, right? Because now it's like, okay, I know this product doesn't work, so now I can come up with a different idea. Instead of spending like 5 years on a product or idea, you're now spending 5 days on a product or idea, right? And again, this is one of those things where like you don't have to actually spend 5 days on, like, if you want to spend a month on one product, you can, right? And put in your all for a month if you really believe in that vision. But like if you're not getting any sales in like the first 5 days, to be honest, like let's say you ship in 2 days, you're 3 days to market and you haven't seen a single sale, that means the idea is not working, shut it down. At least that's a key rule that I use for all of my MicroSaaS, right? It's, you want to fail fast, because now that you failed fast, now now you can start something else that might actually succeed. 9 times out of 10 in MicroSaaS, if it's your first one or your first like couple 15, I want to say, like it's gonna fail. And like that's a good thing, because now you're learning a lot of things, and like your 16th one might pass. The third goal is like keeping costs low. Like obviously on distribution you want to spend as much money as possible, but like you want to like relatively like keep that under 10K, right? Like especially if it's money out of your own pocket, because again, MicroSaaS, like 9 times out of 10 they're bootstrapped, like you don't have any investors, so like you want to keep costs as low as possible. And then when the app gains traction, you still want to keep costs low, because again, you're not actually printing billions of dollars. Like MicroSaaS, like the most they'll get up to is like maybe you'll make like $1 million a month, or like 2 mil a month, maybe 5 mil a month, in like it's not gonna get you $1 billion in revenue like per month, like, or like even like 100 million in revenue a month. Like it's not like, again, it's not gonna make you as much money as a traditional startup. So you want to keep costs low, and by that, like it's actually the complete opposite of a traditional startup. Like there's no point of getting 100 people on your team, or like spending money on like 5 different offices. There's no point of that. Think about it. You did this MicroSaaS all by yourself. And if you want to gain more traction, just spend money on distribution. Get teams together, obviously, if you want to, right? But like honestly, like you can have a MicroSaaS that's printing 5 mil a month with only 5 people if you really want, right? Like keep costs as low as possible. Don't be stupid and spend money on a big ass team, like 5 different offices, just because you're making $1 million a month, because that $1 million a month is just gonna go away. And I'll get into that a little bit later. So now that we talked about the goals, let's get into the success guide and what you need to actually be successful if you want to get into MicroSaaS. So number one on the success guide is you want to touch a niche market, whether it's the gym bros, whether it's like a race, a religion, whether it's like the bros that are into cars, whether it's girls that are into clothes, like whatever that niche market is, like it has to tackle that niche, right? Like you don't want an application that's like very, very broad, because like it's very hard to market then. Like once you have a niche, like once you have a niche SaaS idea, just go for it. Go for that niche down SaaS idea. It doesn't have to be a SaaS for everyone. It just has to be one for a specific target audience. The second thing on the success guide is keep up with MicroSaaS influencers, right? This could be like Blake Anderson or like Arab. Like these are pretty good examples, but like other examples work too. And I say that is because, they have the sauce, keep up with the sauce. Because MicroSaaS, it's not like a traditional startup where like things, don't really change as much. MicroSaaS is constantly changing. Like approaches are changing, marketing strategies are changing. Like it's very, very, very fast paced. So keep up with the news. The third thing on the success guide is once you got one MicroSaaS to blow up, get others to blow up. This kind of brings me back to what I was talking about when I was going over the different goals. Is like for a MicroSaaS, there might be a time where you actually die out. If it's a MicroSaaS and it's like very niche down and it's like going based off of a trend or like a meme, like it's better to actually just sell or like, take that money, pour it into a different SaaS. And even if it doesn't die out, it's better to still get experience and actually creating other SaaS so you know what that looks like, right? Maybe tackling a whole different industry as a whole, or like staying in the same industry but doing a different product. At least you know what the process is like, and after your 20th MicroSaaS, it comes to you like this. So what are the different cons with MicroSaaS? So the first one is you have to be really good at distribution. Like once you have the product, like that's the easy part. Now distributing that product, that's the hard part, because you have to look at the competition. Like there's a lot of people reaching out to UGC creators or like influencers, paying them amounts to like promote their software, and like creators are charging more and more now. They want more and more of a commission. Like it's actually pretty difficult to get a good team of like distributors or like creators or whatever together that are actually pushing this product out. Because there's a lot of competition in that. And also, if you're from an engineering background, you're going to kind of dismiss this and be unmotivated by it. Like as soon as you create your MicroSaaS, you're going to be like, okay, I tried creating like 5 or 6 TikTok videos myself. They didn't do anything. Like this stuff isn't real. It doesn't work. Like the way engineers think, right? Like you don't think about marketing. So it's like you just kind of dismiss it and then you just get completely unmotivated. You're going to give up too quick, right? And like maybe not on the product, but on MicroSaaS as a whole, you're just gonna give up too quick. So that's definitely a con there. The second con is, and this kind of goes off the first con, is like you'll probably be failing a lot. Like you're probably not gonna make it for like the first 20 times. And like you might be thinking, you're like, Sanan, I have to make 20 different MicroSaaS in order for me to succeed. That's not true. I've seen people, get lucky with their first one, their second one, their fifth one. But like you have to stay open to that, right? Because the people that made the fifth one, they were down to do the 20th one, right? So your mindset has to like be okay with failing. And failing is good. I always say this, right? Failing is feedback. It's all feedback that you're getting. So after you fail on the first one, the second one, you're going to do a lot better. And if you fail on the second one, now you have a bunch of more knowledge for the third one, and so on and so forth. You're going to get to a point where eventually one actually succeeds, but you have to put your all in. And yeah, I guess this kind of brings me to the end of the video. I really hope this video actually helped you out, right? And I also hope that some notes were taken, because there was a lot of information on this video and a lot of it's a really good information. Connect with me down on my social medias. So yeah, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I will catch you in the next one.